5 mitzvahs on Leil Seder. 2 of them are what are called deoraisas, and 3 of them are derabanan. So 2 of them come from the Torah, and 3 of them come from the rabbis. The 2 deoraisas, the 2 mitzvahs that come from the Torah, are Sipu Yetzias Mitzrayim, telling over the story of the Exodus from Egypt, and the second one is eating matzah. The 3 rabbinical mitzvahs that we've got are the 4 cups of wine that we have to drink, and the eating of the maror, and reciting Hallel. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the dimensions that involve eating things and drinking things. Yeah?
Just out of curiosity, do you like horseradish?
Actually, I do. How did you know that?
I love horseradish.
The horseradish here has been very weak, though, from what I've noticed. The red horseradish, it's not that strong.
Just wait.
Yeah?
Just wait. I want to see. It won't be the horseradish. It'll be red. It'll be your face as you try to get some more air in there. I don't know. The truth is like this. When you eat the red stuff, it's been all kinds of things have been added to it. Yeah. What's called chrein has got horseradish and it's got beetroots added to it, beetroot juice, and sometimes a bit of sugar, just because I can't. Otherwise, it's too strong. On Pesach, the maror that we eat is just a horseradish. We're going to eat lettuce as well, just to sort of like keep things under control. But just pure white grated horseradish is relatively strong. It'll clean your sinuses out, that's for sure. I had a friend whose father decided that he was going to eat the prerequisite amount of horseradish, not using lettuce at all, and he fainted.
So you just have lettuce if you haven't got the best stomach.
Yeah, for sure. We'll talk about it. Lettuce is 100% okay. So we have to look and see how much matzah you got to eat, how much maror you've got to eat, and how much wine you've got to drink. Yeah.
Lettuce isn't much of a thing here in Israel. You just don't see it that often.
I tell you, one of the problems with lettuce is, in general, it's full of bugs. So the lettuce that you buy over here, certainly in the Orthodox communities, it's bug free. It's been grown in a certain way above ground, and it doesn't get infested with bugs. That makes it a little bit more expensive, which is probably why you don't see so much of it around. But on Seder night, you'll see masses of it. Don't worry. Any nostalgia you've been having for lettuce will be amply romaine lettuce. Yeah.
I imagine part of kosher is or being organic, right? Like we don't spray pesticides on our vegetables to keep bugs off them.
I mean, not once they're on your plate. No.
Yeah.
We just douse them in high calorie dressings, right? just to make sure that there's no real health benefits whatsoever from eating this stuff. Interestingly enough, Judaism, even though Judaism is very concerned about the ecology, there aren't any hard and fast rules inside of Jewish law about whether you should or shouldn't use pesticides. When I was growing up, they didn't know an awful lot about pesticides, so everything was doused in pesticides. Nowadays, they realize that this stuff is really pretty unhealthy, to put it mildly. So lots of people are now growing things that haven't used pesticides, which of course adds the dimension of trying to deal with the bugs. And that's why good old Jewish innovation, they came up with all of this stuff that's grown. It's detached from the earth. Some of it's grown above ground. Some of it's grown inside of water. I mean, it's a fascinating different methods of making stuff grow and keeping it bug free. But leafy vegetables in general are a problem. So lettuce and cabbage and spinach and broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts and all that kind of stuff. They're all problematic, and you need to, if you're going to eat them, if you're going to eat them, you need to try and get a hold of stuff that's been grown in a way that they are not bug full. However, we are not talking about bugs today.
Stop bugging.
Nice try over there to get us off topic. You did very good, but I'm being super focused today, so it's not gonna work. Let's have a look at the matzah. Right, we've got a matzah. It says in the pasuk in Shmoi, says be'erev toichlu matzot, that you're supposed to eat matzahs on the night of Seder. Now, interestingly enough, the obligation to eat matzah is only on Seder night. You're not obligated to eat matzah through the rest of Pesach. If you don't want to, you can't eat bread, obviously, but you don't have to eat matzah. How you're going to be able to make lechem mishnah, that's a problem, because on Shabbos and Yom Tov we're supposed to be making hamotzi and eating matzah. But in the meantime, the obligation, the biblical obligation, is to eat only on the first night. Who's obligated to eat matzah? So actually, the truth is everybody, men and women. Even though you might imagine that women might be exempt from the mitzvah of eating matzah because it is a time-bound positive mitzvah, nevertheless, the pasuk says, "Lo yiseichlu alav chometz shivas yomim toichel alav matzah," that anybody who is forbidden to eat chametz has to eat matzah. That's what the pasuk says. Right? Pasuk in the Torah says, and that means that women are included in the mitzvah as well. Another reason that's given why women have to eat the matzah is because, again, without the women there wouldn't have been any redemption from Egypt. We spoke about that yesterday, right? In the merit of the righteous women, that's why we were redeemed. Matzah, what's it supposed to be made out of? So it's got to be made out of one of the 5 grains. The 5 grains, of course, are wheat, spelt, barley, oats, and rye. Now, some of these things, if people have stomach issues, so for example, if anybody is celiac, for example, or glucose intolerant, gluten intolerance, so matzah made out of spelt is normally great. It's a little bit more expensive, but apparently it's a lot easier on the stomach, on the digestion, and it's something which most people are able to eat without it causing any kinds of problems. If you do have stomach issues where you can't really eat any of these 5 things, then you need to speak to a competent Orthodox rabbi to have a stomach transplant or something for Pesach, and then swap things back again afterwards when you no longer need the additional protection. What do you make matzah with? Like we spoke about the other day, it can only be made out of 2 things. Flour and water, that's it, nothing else. Can't use anything else. There is something called matzah ashira. Matzah ashira is something which has had eggs added into it, or it's had some kind of juice added into it. That is not matzah that can be used on Leil Seder. You cannot eat it because you're not fulfilling the mitzvah of eating what is called lechem oni. Lechem oni means poor man's bread. Poor man's bread is bread which has got no additives in it whatsoever.
Is it Sephardim also?
Yeah, everybody.
You know how you have how you have in England the tea matzahs and stuff like that?
Yes.
They've been baked in a factory with other breads, so can you have them?
If they again, in general, anything that you're going to eat on Pesach needs to have Pesach supervision, right? Which means that if the matzahs that you're eating, even if they're normally baked in a place which is full of chometz, if they've got some kind of a supervision over there saying that it's okay to eat them on Pesach, then that's fine. It means they've cleaned the place out. If not, then even if they're kosher during the rest of the year, you should not be eating them on Pesach. You should know, in general, matzah factories are normally not kosher for Pesach. They have to be kashered for Pesach because the flour that's used in making regular matzah during the year is not Pesach flour, and it's been through some kind of a process, and therefore, in general, all the matzah that we're eating has to have some kind of supervision on it. We're going to eat matzah 3 times on Leil Seder. The first time is what's called moitzi matzah. That's the first time that we eat the matzah with the lechem mishnah. The second time is the koirech, when we make a sandwich out of the maror and the charoises and the matzah all together. And the third time is the afikomen. That's the last thing that we're going to eat on Leil Seder. The first time that we eat matzah, what's known as motzi matzah. Huh? That's the one. What?
Motzi.
Well, it's called motzi matzah because we're going to take the matzah out, but that's the one that we make the hamotzi over. And that is a dioraisa. That's a biblical commandment to eat. And koirech, which is a sandwich, is a rabbinical mitzvah, and afikomen is a machlokes. Right? We've got a disagreement about amongst the authorities what it is and what it's not. Why do we need to know this? Because the amounts that you need to eat are going to be classified according to what you're eating. If it's a dioraisa, if it's a biblical commandment, then we have to eat a little bit more. If it's rabbinical, then we can eat a little bit less. Yeah.
Why Why the sandwich? Why the Reuven, why the sandwich? If
Hillel-
it's not Doraisa, why?
Yeah.
Who would have?
Who would have come up with the idea of having a matzah sandwich for all things on Seder night when we're eating so much matzah anyway? Yeah, that's an interesting question. Hillel, the origin of the sandwich comes from Hillel, not from the Earl of Sandwich at all, actually. The first sandwich in history was made by Hillel. Hillel took the matzah and the moror, and he combined the two together. And that was something that he introduced as an embellishment to the Seder night, and that's why it's got a rabbinical classification. Why did he do that? Because matzah and moror are two opposite concepts. Matzah, even though matzah is an interesting thing, matzah represents two different things. It represents the concept of slavery, which is lechem oni, but by the time we get to eat it, we're already out of Egypt, and it represents the lechem cherus, the lechem, the bread of freedom, because we went out of Egypt. That's what we ate when we went out, because the bread didn't have enough time to raise, right?
Not purity, freedom. What was the second one? I'm sorry.
Freedom.
Freedom.
Right? So, what have we got? Matzah represents freedom. Moror, of course, represents the opposite. It represents the bitterness of the enslavement and the hard work. So what Hillel is teaching is something really something very beautiful, something very, very basic, which means that Hillel's trying to give over the idea that there is no dimension in our lives of only good or only bad. Everything that we have is a combination of both of these things, which means the good and the bad are intermingled with each other. Good things happen with a little bit of bad, and bad things happen with a little bit of good inside of it. And like we've spoken about many times in the past, something which we imagine was good ends up being bad, and something which we imagine was bad ends up being good, right? So what Hillel is doing is Hillel's really giving us a symbol within inside of Leil Seder that represents the concept of good and bad being intertwined with each other.
Okay, so you eat matzah with the maror, but why a sandwich? Why make a sandwich out of it? You just say you got a piece of matzah, you got maror, you eat them together.
I think the emphasis. I think it's just a practical thing. Actually, you've got to eat. We're going to see. You've got to eat a certain amount of matzah, right? And you've got to eat a certain amount of moror. And I guess the simplest way of doing it is just putting the moror in between the matzah and eating it as quickly as you can. But if you want, you could put the moror on top of the matzah and just eat it like that without having a piece on top if you want. But the inyan over here is really what Hillel is teaching, is that we need to eat the two together. Right? How you go about eating them together, whatever works for you. Matzah, anybody who follows the Ashkenazi tradition, so matzah, of course, is something which is very thin and very brittle, and it leaves the most enormous amount of crumbs everywhere. Some of the Sfardim have a custom to eat matzah which is thicker and much more flexible, a little bit like a pita Iraqi, what's called a Lauffer. I'm sure you do. I haven't come across anybody that doesn't actually. It's fantastic stuff, especially when it's fresh, right? Gosh, I've never seen you this animated before. Wow. Yeah, they're also.
They're not taking them when they're fresh,
Lauffers are also fantastic when they're fresh. It's just it's been a while since we come across anything, right, fresh inside of the Lauffers. But so for them making this sandwich for them is easy, right? They just take the moror and they roll it up.
And it's soft.
And it's soft, and you can you can do what you want with it. If you're good at origami, you can turn it into a little sailboat, and, give it to the kids to play with. But so whatever. I think it's just a simpler way of eating it, but you should eat it however is good for you. How much do you have to eat? Let's have a look and see. Anyone who is obligated to eat matzah has to eat what is called a kazayit. A kazayit is an olive volume's worth of matzah. How much is that? So let's have a look and see. The Chazon Ish says that a dioraita, right, the mitzvah dioraita, which is the first time that we're going to eat the matzah, we're talking about a minimum of half a hand matzah or 2/3 of a machine matzah. Okay, because hand matzahs are normally bigger than the machine matzahs. I don't know which kind you're going to have in your Seder, right? So some people are careful to only eat hand matzahs.
They look different.
Huh?
They look different.
They look different. Hand matzahs are round.
So hand
Round
And-
and burnt.
how much does it look like that?
Yes, very good.
Yeah.
And a machine matzah, come on Alex, let's go for it. A machine matzah is square. Good. I don't know what that little bit on the edge is over there. I don't know, but that's.
And it must be shmur matzah.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that as well in a minute for sure. That's an important detail over here. But in the meantime, what have we got? We've got you have to do the kazayis again. The Chazon Ish is saying that a hand matzah, which is bigger than a machine matzah, half of a hand matzah is
How
a
much would be
kazayit.
2/3? One second. How much would be 2/3?
2/3 of a.
Like that.
That looks more like a quarter to me. I think you need to
Then how
turn
much
up
is
a little
2/3?
a little bit more. I think. No, that's too much now. No, I think you've done too much now.
Actually, I'm being serious now. Come on.
But 2/3, if you take your hand, if you take your machine matzah and you break it into three equal parts, you
So
should
then
eat
here's
two of them.
Two of them.
Make it into
Thank you,
thirds, make
Gabriel.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was like, I
You're welcome.
got stuck over here. I was like,
Cake, you know, right?
yeah, and it's never quite straight. You have to just
So that's
straighten it
how
up
we
a
do
little bit.
With the hand matzah, right? You make it with
Hand matzah,
Pizza
that's right. You
cutter?
try.
a pizza.
Oh, a
cutter.
pizza cutter, but you have to have a kosher Pesach pizza cutter, right?
You just gotta hope that the whole thing doesn't turn into crumbles.
Yeah, that it's not so simple. That's for sure. The machine the machine matzahs are a lot easier to break because they've got very straight lines
Yes,
going
I've
through
always had
them,
machine matzah.
and you can just take you can work out how much a third is. Knock off a third. The other 2/3 is what you should be eating because they're smaller in volume
And
than
then
the
if you need
hand
the other third
matzahs.
for later time.
Yeah, you can do that whenever, right? For the Derabonon, so we're talking about one second.
No, this question is important.
Okay, it's important.
It's involving the matzahs in the Seder. And
Okay,
doesn't go off track, I think.
not
So,
sure we've ever had a question like that before, have we?
Could you use machine matzah for the matzah that's in the covering? Or does it have to be shmur?
Here, hold on. We'll talk about it. Let me finish up the volumes, and we'll talk about it for sure. It's an important question. For the Rabbanon, so we're talking over here about the korach, which is the sandwich, right? You can use less because it's a rabbinical mitzvah. We don't have to be so stringent. So it's enough to eat a quarter of a hand matzah and a third of a machine matzah. Now, for those of you that were having trouble working out how much 2/3 is, a third is the bits that left.
I'm so happy you've got my back.
Thank you. No, I don't want you to be uncertain about these things. They're important.
So wait, a third and a quarter.
A third is a quarter plus a little bit more, yes.
No, he's singing the-
Oh, he was sitting in the corner. He'd been a naughty boy.
We forgot his dunce hat at home.
Doesn't look like it, actually.
Distracting.
Okay, one last thing before we talk about what kind of matzah you're supposed to be eating, and that is how long you're supposed to eat it in. So the halacha is you have to eat it in what's called kedei achilat pras.
5 minutes.
Now, what is 1 minute? Kedei achilat pras is a dioraisa for the first one, which is the moitzi matzah. The first time we're going to eat the matzah, it's within 2 minutes.
Oh.
Right? Now, eating a kazayas of matzah within 2 minutes requires a little bit of preparation, I think. If you want to chew gum for like a week before, just to get your jaws into shape so that you're able to do this, then that's probably the right thing to do. Yeah.
Would it be bad if you turned it into a race so you could eat it faster?
No, not at all, actually. If that's going to help get it down, then that's okay. For Derabonon, right, so we're talking about the korech, you've got much longer, up to 9 minutes to be able to finish it up. That's okay. For anybody, hold on a second, for anybody who's not capable of eating matzah, so it is possible to soak the matzah to make it soft in order to make it more palatable in order to get it down. Some people, for example, if they've got, somebody has dentures or if they just don't have very strong teeth to begin with, it's permissible to do that even if you normally come from, if your custom is not to eat matzah that's been soaked. In order to fulfill the mitzvahs of Leil HaSeder, it's okay to do that even if that's not normally your custom.
What's it got to do with dentures? I mean, I could promise to get that matzah down every year.
That's because you're Swiss. And the idea of stuffing everything into your mouth and then watching it all like spill out again is something, that's not the way you were brought up, right? You have to eat your matzah with a knife and fork, for sure. It's true that eating the prerequisite amount of matzah in the prerequisite amount of time is definitely an experience. I don't recommend that you watch anybody else whilst you're doing it. It's not a very pretty sight. It really isn't.
Well, he's just going to burst out laughing. And
That's even worse. Yeah, for sure. You will spray the people there with all kinds of interesting whatever. Yeah.
So deraisa, the shear is bigger.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't understand, why is it that when you have a bigger shear, the time amount is smaller? And then vice versa.
Because
the Rabbanon,
no,
there's more
because
time for less to eat.
the dioraisa, you go stringent in both directions.
I know.
Right?
I know it's very hard.
Which
to
means that
accomplish
the
why isn't it going according to the size?
No, because it works like this: that what is considered kedei achilas pras between 2 and 9 minutes, right? But 2 is the most stringent opinion, and 9 is the most lenient opinion. Which means that when you've got a rabbinical mitzvah, you can afford to be lenient. When you've got a Torah mitzvah,
you haven't fulfilled the mitzvah lechatchila,
yeah, yeah,
if you haven't eaten within 2 minutes.
yeah,
That's a bit harsh.
yeah. That's me. It's my middle name. Did you say
Rather
Hirsch?
harsh,
Hirsch
no.
or Harsh? Hirsch. What matzah are you supposed to eat? On Leila said you were supposed to eat shmura matzah. Now, what is shmura matzah? Shmura matzah is matzah that's been made with wheat that is being stored from the time that it was harvested. It's been stored, it's been kept dry, it's been watched. You can get shmura matzah, which is hand-baked matzah. You can get shmura matzah, which is machine-baked matzah. You've just got to make sure that when you're buying your boxes of matzah that it says shmura on it. Okay, which means that machine matzah doesn't necessarily mean that it's not shmura. It can very well be shmura matzah, but you just got to check. Hand-baked matzahs, as far as I know, are all made from shmura wheat, which means that they're all the hand-baked ones are okay. Okay, so just keep an eye on what it is that you're eating on Leila Seder. For the rest of Pesach, if you don't want to be careful about eating only shmura matzah, that's okay, right? You can you can have the other kind of matzah, of course, so long as it's kosher for Pesach. That goes without saying, right?
Are you saying, is it shmura?
Shmura.
Shmura, is shmura the difference between when it's like guarded from the time of harvest
Yes.
versus the time from when
Yeah,
the grinding
yeah.
occurs? Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Which means that regular matzah, the flour arrives at the factory, and then it's under constant supervision the whole time from then. Shmura matzah, the wheat is under constant supervision from the time that it's harvested. Right? It's an extra stringency. You'll know. How do you know the difference between the two? The price.
No.
It's pretty obvious once you're comparing prices. If one box of matzah costs you 20 shekels and the other box of matzah costs you 30 shekels, then that's because it's shmura matzah. And that was one of the things that I always learned, that it's called lechem oini. It's called poor man's bread, because after you've paid for your hand-baked shmura matzah, that's exactly what it is. It is, in the Jewish world, it is the most expensive commodity that you will buy in the entire year. It probably goes head to head with truffles like with French truffles or something, because it really is rather expensive.
Do you, just personally, I'm just curious, do you use it for the Seder only, or?
No, I use shmura. I use shmura matzah all the way through Pesach. The whole family does, and we also only use hand matzahs normally. And that's not true. We do have machine matzahs after the Seder night, but my personal stringency. Everybody needs to have one stringency. So my stringency is to eat only hand-baked matzahs during Pesach.
So what do you give your hamster to eat on Pesach?
What do I give my hamster to eat? Normally, cholent, kishka, gala, chopped liver, whatever there is. It's not a hamster, it's a guinea pig. Normally it's a guinea pig to see whether this stuff is edible or not. That's Anyway, that's the matzah taken care of. Maror. Let's move on to the next dimension over here.
You answered my question.
What was your question? You think I remember what your question was?
Yes.
What was your question?
My question was, like, could you use square matzah? Or
Yes.
use the circle matzah?
Yes. I did answer your question. You just weren't listening.
Oh,
Whatever you do, you're gonna be okay.
But I'm gonna answer it again anyway.
yes.
Right. You said that
You can use
square matzah could
square
be
matzah-
shmura, but I mean, like,
yeah. Where on Lela Seder? On Seder night?
I'm asking, like, could you use non-shmura matzah?
No, you should use shmura matzahs on Seder night.
Right.
And if you but if you want to use square ones, that's fine, right?
Okay,
So
just
long
not
as they're
use
shmura,
shmura.
they should be shmura matzahs.
Question: the whole thing with shmura is also to make sure that the wheat hasn't been rained on before it's being harvested.
Yes.
Yeah. So some matzah is not called shmura. Like, are we just talking about a machlekes or a stringent thing whether wheat that's been rained on is actually considered chametz or not?
I'm loath to answer the question whilst we're being recorded, but it's a stringency.
The stringent.
Even though there are opinions inside of the halacha which make it more than a stringency, but nevertheless, I mean, the very fact that you've got matzah which is certified kosher Pesach by very reputable, kashrus authorities is an indication that it's a stringency.
Are you saying that there are opinions that say you have shmura matzah?
There are very
Okay,
stringent
say that.
opinions which say that you can only use shmura matzah.
Okay.
Right? And we're all for stringencies over here, right?
Yeah. Always try.
I guess.
We do our best, right?
Yeah.
Mora. Let's have a look at Mora. What do we got over here? So we've got a pasuk in Bamidbar which says Al matzos umorim yoichluhu, which means that you've got to eat matzah and Mora together. So in order for the Mora to be a dioraisa, in order for it to be a Torah obligation, it has to be eaten together with a korban Pesach, right? The Paschal lamb. Now, we don't have a korban Pesach, we don't have a temple right now, Mitzvah Hashem. By the time Pesach comes rolling around, we'll have a temple, and we'll have a korban Pesach, and we'll be able to eat the Mora as a dioraisa instead of a derabanan, which means that right now, Achilas Maror is going to be a rabbinical mitzvah. How much needs to be eaten? So again, we're going to be revolving around the concept of a kazayas. How much is a kazayas over there? So, if we're talking about romaine lettuce, which is one of the easiest ways of eating maror, and we'll talk about it in a minute. If we're talking about romaine lettuce, then it needs to be enough leaves so that you've got between 8 by 10 inches worth of leaves, or if you prefer, 20.5 centimeters by 25.5 centimeters. So we're talking about quite a large amount. It's probably about 3, maybe 2.5 or 3 large romaine lettuce leaves. If you want to do it with horseradish, right, without using the lettuce, then you need 32 milliliters of horseradish, or 11.1 fluid ounces. It's a lot.
a lot.
It's a lot, right?
Where do you get romaine lettuce in this country?
All over the place. For Pesach, it'll be everywhere,
Yeah.
right? And in Mitzvah Hashem, only buy, we spoke about this before you came in, but only buy lettuce that's bug-free. Don't buy lettuce. I remember as a kid, one of the things that was part of the lettuce, part of the Pesach preparations was washing out the lettuce and trying to get rid of all the bugs.
It's a
And
real chore.
that is definitely one way of describing it. Being the youngest child, I never actually did it, of course, even though I was supposed to. I just left it to other people to do.
I think there's like a certain amount of time that has to be immersed in water, even if it's bug.
Oh, no. The thing is like this: the stuff that you're buying over here is really, if it's coming, certified that it's bug free, then you just have to wash it off because it's normally got a lot of sand on it. If you've got lettuce which is not certified as bug free, then you've got to wash it in soapy water. It's a whole procedure. It really is, and you've got to soak it in there. It's not an easy thing to do at all.
How can you differentiate between regular lettuce and Roman lettuce? I don't think I've ever seen Roman lettuce.
Romaine lettuce, not Roman lettuce. Romaine lettuce. I'm sure you've seen it all the time. No, it's long.
Yeah.
It's look about this high, and
You
it's
buy in the
dark
store?
green. Yeah, normally
That's not regular lettuce?
that's
No.
romaine lettuce. That's what it.
Lettuce comes oval.
Well, that's an iceberg. Iceberg lettuce.
Iceberg
Why is it
lettuce.
called an iceberg when it's
Yes.
round? Who knows?
Yeah.
Right? But that's not what we're discussing today. We're not discussing the vagaries of the English language. We are discussing the vagaries of lettuce. Iceberg lettuce, which you don't see very much, I think because iceberg lettuce is packed very tight,
Yeah.
and it's a lot more difficult to get rid of the bugs. But romaine lettuce is like the standard, it's normally about that high, green. The outer leaves are normally pretty dark. And that's something that's fine, that's great. Why is that okay? Because the Gemara says already that when you chew on the lettuce, it's sweet at the beginning and it becomes bitter. The longer you chew it, the more bitter it becomes. And it's a symbol, of course, of the slavery that we were in, that it started off, it was okay. We were down there with Yaakov Avinu in Egypt and with the Shvatim, with the brothers, everything was great. As everybody started dying out and things started becoming more difficult, at that point it became very bitter. So it's very symbolic. What many people do is that they'll eat both the moras together, right? They'll take the lettuce and the horseradish and they'll mix it together. That's what I normally do as well. I'll tell you why. Not for any kind of, it's not a stringency. I just have the one stringency, that's all I have. But I like the taste of horseradish. Bernie, are you with me? You like it too, no? Yeah, it's like it's got a great tang to it, and the two of them together is it's sad, but I look forward to eating the moro on Seder night. That's pretty sad, huh?
How do you feel, Rabbi?
Thank you, and you probably know how long I've been feeling like this as well. With your background in psychiatry, I would imagine that
Let's not go into that.
all is revealed. How long have you got to eat it inside of? How long should you take to eat your moro? 9 minutes, right? Why 9 minutes and not 2 minutes? Let's see who's paying attention. Let's not. This is a
Less
little
stringent
disturbing.
or more stringent?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. You covered all your bases over there. That was good. Because it's a rabbinical mitzvah, so we can take more time to eat it inside of, and we don't have to eat it within inside of 2 minutes. Who is obligated to eat the mara? Everybody. Again, men, women, icebergs, everybody. Goldbergs for sure, yeah. There's one interesting thing over here. This is a halacha which is really designed especially for Bernie, right?
Oh, great.
When you come to get your Seder ready, you should not grate the horseradish until just before the Seder, right? Why is that, Bernie? You know why? Let's see what you know over here. Come on, let's see how familiar you are with the intricacies of horseradish.
Because the more recently you grind it, the stronger it is.
Oh, look at that. This man is a bona fide expert. Any questions that you people have on horseradish, they should be directed towards Bernie over here. Right? If you grate it too early, when you grate it, it starts losing its potency, and then after a while, it doesn't have very much bitter taste to it at all. Right? So
You're supposed to grate it?
You can cut it up if you want. Cut it into, you have to take off the skin, right? You just peel it. It's not a skin. It's just like the outside of the horseradish.
Like
Yeah, exactly. So you could peel it, and then you can do what you want. If you want to cut it up into little circles, you could do that. If you want to be more artistic and cut it up into little snowmen, you could do that. If you want to cut it up into little Rabbi Lauffers and stick needles in it, you could do that as well. Really, I mean,
Sorry, we're not into voodoo.
Oh, I'm in the wrong place today. I'm sorry. I thought this was Voodoo 101, wasn't it? Never mind. Again, bug-free lettuce. I can't stress it enough. Eating bugs is got many different prohibitions that are attached to it. So you got to be careful with what you are eating. Right? Let's just hope that those crunchy bits, as you eat the lettuce, are nothing more than the bits of the horseradish, right? Than anything else. Okay, what about the last thing we've got to get through over here is the arba koises. We've got to drink 4 cups of wine on Seder night. Again, what can you use? Use wine, use grape juice. I told you the other day. Huh?
We did this.
No, we're going to go through the amounts exactly, work out what needs to be done.
What do you call that?
The arba koises. Arba means 4, and kosot means cups. So the arba koises are the 4 cups of wine that have to be drunk on Leila Seder. I told you the other day that Rav Osher Weiss, one of the greatest Talmidei Chachamim in our generation, one of the greatest authorities in the generation. He says that you can fulfill your obligation by using grape juice. You don't have to use wine if you don't want to. We spoke about the idea of preferably using red wine. There's something that I didn't mention the other day, but I'll mention it now because it wasn't in my notes the other day, but it's in my notes now. So, why red wine? So the Gemara, it's a Gemara in Pesachim on Daf Kuf Ches Omad Beis, which is 108b. It says, Rabbi Yehuda Oimer, Tzoril Shieh Tam Umara Yayin, that the wine has to have the taste and the look of wine. Right? And from there, the Gemara defines Mara Yain, the look of wine, as being red. Right? So we have to have red wine over here. As I mentioned before, some people only use white wine because of the blood libels. We're not going to repeat everything. Who's obligated with the drinking the 4 cups of wine? So everybody, right? Women as well, because they were an integral part of the nace. Like I mentioned, without the women, we would never have got out of there. So therefore, they have to drink the wine as well. How much needs to be drunk? So we need to drink something called a revius. Yeah.
Is it derabanan or deraisa for drinking the cups of wine?
It's a derabanan.
Okay.
How much is a revius? Right, you got to drink a revius worth of wine. Says the Chazon Ish, a revius is 150 milliliters. Right, just over 5 fluid ounces. Okay. Interesting enough, according to halacha, the best way to drink the 4 cups of wine is by drinking. You should drink the whole cup of wine each go, but at least the majority of the cup, right? Which means even if your cup has got much more than 150 milliliters inside of it, 150 milliliters we worked out is probably, right, that plastic cup over there is probably 150 milliliters, no? No?
I don't think so. Hold on, let me check.
Is an Elijah's cup traditionally used for Pesach?
Yeah, but not for drinking the wine. You know what, we'll talk about it in just a moment.
Okay.
But let's just finish up over here the halachas. Lechatchila, you should drink your cup of wine within 2 minutes. That's good, right? That's all doable. Everybody can do that one. That's no big deal. And there was one thing that we spoke about the other day. There is a minig, which you said was a strange minig, but it's not strange at all. That everyone pour wine for somebody else. You don't pour out your own wine because we are B'nai Melachim. We are the sons of kings, and we're free. And normally they have people to do things for them. Yeah.
We are leaning as we drink them.
You're leaning as you drink them, but not as you make the bracha.
So you say the bracha, then you lean.
You make the bracha and then you lean.
Oh,
Yes.
so I figured out about this size.
It is about that, right?
About maybe like half another one of those on top.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, how much is that?
That's a short 150, no?
Huh?
The bigger one's a 200, no?
I don't think it's 100.
I don't know. I'm
Well,
surprised to hear. I don't know, 150 milliliters it's not such a large amount of
Just leave my cup alone.
It says 180 milliliters or something.
180.
180.
Oh,
so
good. Okay, so it's just a little bit less. Great. Okay.
So it's not bad.
Here, one last halacha over here, which is what Avram Yisrael.
Avram
Yisrael mentioned, which is the 5th cup of wine which we don't drink. It's called the Koshel Eliyahu, Elijah's cup, which is normally a much larger cup than the regular standard sized cup that you're going to use during the Seder. The function of that cup is that it says that God is going to send Elijah to all the houses on Seder night. It's a very beautiful story, actually. It says like this, that Elijah wanted to return the Torah to God. He said the Jews don't keep the Torah anymore, and he wanted to give the Torah back to God. And God says to him, it's not yours to give, it belongs to the Jewish people. And as a form of not a punishment, but as a form of a lesson to teach Eliyahu, he comes to every single home on Seder night to see the Jewish people doing God's will, right? Fulfilling the mitzvah of Seder night. And a cup of wine is poured out from him. It's called the Koshel Eliyahu. It's a big cup. When I was a kid, I was convinced that, after the Seder, Elijah came and drank it because it wasn't there in the morning. The first year that I was old enough to stay up till the end and I saw my father pouring it back into the bottle was was one of the big disappointments, perhaps the
Well,
biggest disappointment of my life.
Tooth fairy disappointment.
Yeah. Oh, at least over there, I know. Who cares? So long as they leave you money, who cares who it is, right?
I never believed in the tooth fairy.
Huh?
I never believed in the tooth fairy. First time I lost my tooth, I saw my parents sneaking into my room.
Oh, first time I lost my tooth, I saw my brother sneaking out of the room because he punched me in the mouth. But that's a separate issue. Hey, that's not what we're talking about right now. The Kosher Eliyahu, it's interesting. It says there are 4 different words that are used about the redemption of the Jewish people, but there's a 5th word which is used not in conjunction with the redemption, but in conjunction to coming into the land of Israel. Vihivesi, I brought you to the land of Israel. The 5th cup of wine is symbolic of the time the Mashiach is going to come in Mitzvah Hashem very soon. And that 5th cup of wine is symbolic of the fact that God is going to finish up the process of the redemption by bringing us to the land of Israel, rebuilding the temple, and allowing us to serve God in the way that we're supposed to. Which means it's a very. Maybe that's a reason why it's bigger than a regular size, because we've got this great anticipation that in Mitzvah Hashem that the Mashiach should come.
Amen.
Amen. Tomorrow.
Why wait till tomorrow?
Tonight.
My father always used to say tomorrow never comes.
It's true. Wise man.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem.
Oh, not me. Oh, sorry. Okay, we're going to call it a day over here in Mitzvah Hashem. Tomorrow we're going to take a look at the 4 sons. It won't be halacha orientated. It's going to be just a journey through the Haggadah to see what the 4 sons stand for.
Journey.
And in Mitzvah Hashem, but that's for tomorrow.
Thank you.